TSRs are time-space reality issues in Canada or abroad. Sure, it's happening everywhere around the world, just we're not realizing it. It has to do with repeat instances of time. They might be separate or overlapping or a combination of, and I've seen pretty much every configuration over the years. And it has to do with realizations and the inability to be able to realize it through diagnostic detection or technology elements. It's not going to work so easy. We have an alien technology we're not realizing, and it has to do with time, space, and reality. And we do repeat certain instances or elements of time, and we just don't realize it. We're not wired naturally to realize that, and I'll explain a little bit further on how I do that. I've kind of figured out an algorithm that I've memorized that's way beyond anything like the theory of relativity, and that's just something that's iconic, that's focused on even decades later, a theory. I've figured out quite a few things beyond anything like that theory, which is quite minuscule compared to some other things that I've actually found and can fully explain. And this alien technology, I've memorized and developed an inner algorithm to detect different configurations of double instances of time in real time, close to at the moment of real time, or slightly past. And it has to do with parallel reality moment. And I'll explain that as well. Quite a few years ago, I've recognized a few anomalies here in the country, and I found a couple of anomalies that were double coordinate anomalies. And one of the coordinate anomalies was every certain, let's say, time moment or the scheduling moment, at a precision moment, something would just pop in time in front of you, like a little piece of garbage or a little piece of styrofoam from a garbage or something like that. It's like, what's this? I've shown a few officers back in the day, and I met with some scientists and astrophysicists, and I've proven it. And I had some little beacon things to track our device. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, I wanted to put a little beacon through the anomaly when it opened, because it was an open-close anomaly. It wasn't like the others I had found. And one morning, I had created like a little contraption with like a little whip, and I had set it up on like a little something that I knew the exact moment the anomaly would open-close, and I released the little beacon tracker, and it went through. Holy Chris! I look on my device, somewhere else. Holy Chris! So I went to get it personally myself, all the way in another province, way far away, in a parking lot, beside a trash bin. It freaked me right the fuck out. However, I've noticed that when the anomaly closes, it's not always the same materials that's popping through. So I'm getting the impression that there's an A coordinate and a B coordinate. Like, let's say for example, like when it pops open, like the A coordinate that I see, like the other side of things would be B coordinate, but B coordinate might be a multi-coordinate. That's what I had realized back then, and that's still happening these days. That's still an open-close anomaly that hasn't stopped. And I've seen that last year again, because I got flashbacks with that one. But anyway, I've proven that. I've proven it to a couple astrophysicists and some scientists back then, and a few locals. And once I create a schedule this time, I think I'm going to drive through it with my vehicle. If I can get like a good percentage of like scale factors for the decision-making process. If I can assure that there's less likely of a chance that there's a triple coordinate activity on point B, I'll try to drive through it, see where the other side is. It might not be the parking lot, that's the thing. So if it's let's say it's a triple B coordinate output, well, I might be fucking stuck somewhere, and it's not even fun. I've noticed that somewhere else, traveling somewhere in the country, I was doing some walking, and I was in the middle of a lot of anomalic factors, natural ones. Like sometimes you see, like in a movie, like your compass is not working. It's like, ah, and then you hear the sound in the back going, you know what I mean? It's like a disturbing moment, something like that. I've been in places in this country and elsewhere that, you know, something like the compass will just, it's like, and you have to self-monitor like every 20 minutes just to make certain you're okay with that little alarm on your device, and you know, bring a pencil, a pen, 2 different types of paper just to make sure you can write a note and stuff like that. Really, really, really tough anomaly activity as far as like natural, like environmental things. Quite dangerous. I've been to areas where I had to monitor every 3 minutes, self-monitor, because you just completely just lose yourself in the moment. And typically, like the worst, like every 30 minutes, do a self-test on alarm and coordinate and whatnot. Well, I've come up to one evening that I was walking, I was taking a coordinate, compass wasn't working, digital device wasn't working, and then all of a sudden, digital device was working. So I pressed the coordinate lock to get a waypoint and check my compass. I took a couple steps just to, compass wasn't working right. It's like, get this. And I checked my device again, different coordinate. I had ended up over 200 kilometers elsewhere, just taking 2 steps forward. So when I realized I wasn't in the same place that evening, I took another waypoint, and I just looked around, and I was definitely not in the same place, but I didn't feel or realize anything that happened. You know what I mean? So I kept walking in a further direction, and no, I was not in the same place, that was for sure. So when I returned to my walk, I still had about 4.5 hours walking distance to get back to where my point A was when I had begun. So I decided, well, I'll go to the coordinate lock of my waypoint 2, just to see, because I didn't feel like walking another 4.5 hours. I mean, could have said it's been 6 hours already. I went to the waypoint, and right at the waypoint, I just did a self-test, self-monitor check. I went to that coordinate, took another couple steps, and bloop, back to coordinate A. And it was a constant. I tried it more than once. And it's something that was pretty amazing that we have. So I found instances like that as well, where we have double coordinate activity. And double coordinate activity with maybe a B output, which be a variable or a multi-output coordinate. I've also found a poltergeist anomaly, which I'm not too familiar with, not very interested in. It's not very far. It's someone that, Steven, drive by there at night kind of thing, not just like a fucking prank, like he knew something. And I come like, yeah, okay, type of deal, like, whatever. Only to realize it was true. That freaked me out a little bit. However, I tested it last winter, and it's still at the same location, the poltergeist anomaly. And it has to do with frequencies and resonance frequencies and stuff like that. not the same. What the function of that anomaly is, I don't know. I haven't done any research on it. It's not something that I took too many moments for. I may research that one to its completeness for understanding. As far as the double coordinate items, I know there are other locations of double coordinate activity, and it's something that I wanted to map out, and I'm gonna try to get focus of that this year. Try to refine some details of these anomalies to make them useful to everyday life, or something like that, or beneficial, or adapt to that for different ways, for natural travel, or something like that. Anyway, I've done that back in 2008. But this year, when I can create a scheduling and refine it down to a precise millisecond, I'm going to try to drive through the motherfucker this time and see where I end up. And I'll bring some dry food and some water for sure. Probably end up somewhere in a fucking forest and no road or something like that. That's the thing that worries me the most. However, hey, the way things are going in my life right now, I still have a better chance of survival driving to an anomaly than just sitting here at home waiting for a response from this fucking government in this country. So I'm going to try that first. And as far as TSRs, I've realized, and I tried to explain to United States Senate and the president back then, that we and a few other country leaders around the world and Europe, that we do actually have instances we repeat in time. We're just not realizing it. And I've found so many different configurations of TSR that I'm the only one around the world that actually understands it. Yet, you're going to listen to an astrophysicist talk about his new book that he came out with a decade ago that's still new, coming out next month. I mean, it's always the same story, and there's nothing extra after 2 decades. So I mean, I'm proving first world things, and it's the same thing with the pyramids. The pyramids were actually see, that's the thing about history of humanity and technologies. The pyramid is a great example of it. These structures were constructed for a reason, or probably multiple reasons. However, these days the explanation may not quite be what that is. They were actually structures of transport with missing parts of the configuration within the structure of the pyramid. Like, you have a port. No one knows what the fuck this did or how it was constructed in it. It's a mystery, isn't it? Yeah, you look at the hieroglyphics and you see these species being etched in stone with spaceships, and they look like they're 8 feet tall, and they're not quite the same configuration as the rest of them. Yet, they stand side by side. And all these fancy etched pictures in stone, it's not quite relative what we're thinking these days. See, back then, there were actually other species that we coincided with from elsewhere. Something happened at some threshold moment. But see, those pyramids, when you walk in, you get to the center, and boop, you're going to keep going in the same direction, but you're heading back where you came from. But when you exit, you're in a different coordinate. And that's what those structures were created for. Quick transport of humans without resource. And that's what that was. Yep, TSRs. I've seen so many configurations of TSR, and how to change R in the TS moment. Now explain that. I have found a natural way to unlock the mind beyond, let's say, 4% usage. through focus and concentration. And it has to do with the amount of things we can process at a particular moment and the understanding and realization of it to unlock your mind naturally. See, we're always trying to develop a new material or a new technology to better ourselves, like a new smartphone device to supposedly make us smarter. Well, by the tabandak, it's a good thing we have them these days. We wouldn't even remember what day it is sometimes. You know what I mean? But can you really depend on it to actually tell you the actual day? Because it's a digital device. That's the thing. Here and there, we're also being fooled with that. It's very minuscule amounts, almost like a Bitcoin, fragment at a time. Till bloop, they have a 24-hour moment to use, something like that. They're a bit mining our moment. And when they have enough accumulated, they use up the free days and flip-flop shit around the world. That's being done. That's not very good. As far as TSRs, alien technology, I figured out a way that it's quantum-based technology, and like I've developed an algorithm to detect it. And the thing is with this technology with TSRs, is that if you realize it through something that's written on a paper, or let's say you have a device application that, it pinged up on a yellow amber flag saying that an instant had repeated. You won't be able to make any changes in the TSR moment from there on. It's just going to flow naturally. It's a no change element within the equation. The thing I had realized back in 2008 is that if you can develop an algorithm and memorize it and understand it with the realization of it, and you can detect and determine the two different instances of configuration in a real-time moment without any notebook written or anyone making you realize, or any kind of electrical or electronic device or technology helping you understand that. Okay? When you can do that naturally, the in-between moment, temporarily, you make little decisions here and there, it'll change R within the TS in the TSR moment in real time. And I did that all last summer. I kept seeing the instances double up from different time periods, 2008, 2009, 2007, etc. And when I naturally realized it, I just made little decisions in between, because that's the thing. It's when you can realize it without detection equipment or anything helping you to be relative of that. Every time you make a decision in between, you're in another parallel. You're in like an in-between parallel of both TSR moments. So I make a little decision here and there, here and there, here and there, until I go back to the general parallel, and it changes R in the real time. And I proved that to myself all last summer. I seen it once in twice, 2-3 times in Grand Falls, and I made just little minuscule decisions and just did a reflective moment, just sort of observation. Everything changed. It's quite strange. But you have to have the culpability mechanisms and the realization detection algorithm memorized. And it's something so complicated, and you can't use technology or a skip book or something like that. It won't work. It doesn't fit into the quantum equation. You cannot change the math equation. It just won't work. And that's something I've become an expert on. And that's the thing. I realize only a percentage of what I actually knew. And then last year, I focused for most of the summer on refining what I knew and what I know now, and combined it, reflected upon it, refined it again. Now it's all explainable, and I pretty much easy peasy method. There are two ways to unlock your mind, and jump into different parallel to make little decisions. And I use the easy peasy method. I've used the algorithm memorized. And there's another way, but it takes like weeks and weeks and weeks to unlock the mind to do so. What else could I say about TSR? I also noticed something about TSR that, like double cornet activity. Like I know different detection methods to determine what is the TSR coordinate factor in the moment. Like you might see or realize something in front of you, however, it might be in another coordinate moment. And that article or item or person may or may not even, they don't even realize that you realize in the other coordinate type of, and I'll explain. If someone drives by and they are in another coordinate moment, they think they're in the moment of time-space reality naturally. However, if I'm realizing that's not so, okay, and I, let's say, make contact or interfere in that TSR moment and say hello or stop that vehicle, the minute I make contact or change that TSR moment, that relative becomes relative in my moment, in that coordinate. And I did that before, and it screwed up a few people because they instantaneously no longer knew where they were. And I've seen both sides of that. So last year I started noticing that as well. I didn't do any more tests like that. I didn't want to interfere. Like it's something that I didn't realize when I first realized it. It's just first world stuff. Unknown and unexplainable. And I know now, and I can explain it, and I understand it pretty much all the way around, here and there and here and every which way. So I don't perform those kind of tests because I already know the results. So yeah, and I noticed that, and I noticed the detection methods now furthermore, and you know the different technologies. And I noticed with double TSR moments, I've also in the past had evidence of like production vehicles that are not even in production in 2008, and to this very day not even in production yet. And I know the defining factors on how to realize that, and I realized that over the last year. I spent the whole summer looking at technologies that don't even exist yet, and the different configurations of them, and the ideas and how we could use those applications for our real world moments of today. That's something that's not even in existence yet. Quite something. I've experienced so many different double TSR moments last summer, and it was pretty much an everyday thing. I realized the two different mechanical moments that were exact, except for the little percentage of variance in, let's say, the TSR moment versus an overlap TSR moment exactly. However, just with a slightly different configuration to offset the realization of it so people don't realize. And that's part of the algorithm detection that I've overcome as well. And every time I've realized it, I was deliberately just made opposite decisions of the first relative moment versus the second overlap identical moment to change R and the TSR moment in between. And it's something like some people might detect naturally a portion of a double TSR, and it's called deja vu. You ever have like a moment where you know what I mean? But you don't think too much of it because you don't have enough information. It's very minuscule in your day. It's like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it seems to me I've seen that person before, or it seems to me if we've had lunch before. You know what I mean? Or the same discussion or something like that. but not quite, but something, or something like that. You don't have enough information to actually dwell upon it. You know what that was? That's the exit of the TSR double moment. It's when you realize it naturally. You're going in between two different parallels. And when you exit, that's the deja vu door. So when you're going through your moment in life and you experience a deja vu moment, you just realize that you passed a door, we have an exit of something you could have realized very easily. That's all that is. And then once you, if you ever have the ability to realize two relative moments that are exact in different time periods, you won't have any more deja vu. I've noticed that as well. Don't have any deja vu. So, and I'll explain like TSR and the different parallels. There are 6 different parallels, and there are 6 different other parallels of refining rings. And I've unlocked those as well. And I am now in research of those 6 other refining rings. There are 12. There are 6, 12, plus 1, the vice versa, 13. It's always 13. It's either 7 or 13. As far as numbers, complex. And you can go like, it's not just one parallel. If you go through like quick moments during, let's say a brief 4-hour period, if you have relative moments and you pick up and detect naturally 2 or more relative moments that were exact, then you're in the 3rd or 4th or 5th parallel of a dimension within the reality. And then let's say that you're in the 5th parallel and you make like decisions, it's going to cause a bigger ripple in reality than you would just making the same decision in the 1st parallel of realization. And I've done that. Holy Christopher. So what I've done last year, just little things like an extra coffee, or no coffee, or just a different food or something like that, just to see the differences of reaction in R within the TS moment. Because it's almost like Back to the Future, okay, the movie, when Marty, he gets into that vehicle and puts in his coordinate, whatnot, and drives down the road, and reaction happens, and he's somewhere else. His parents are young. He wasn't even born yet. So he's in that environment, right? Here he is with his fucking skateboard, going down the street, making little decisions here and there, and that's fucking disrupting the town, isn't it? That's just it. It's the same type of ordeal, except the way I realized it in reality is you're still within the relative moment, however, in a different configuration. Once the realization is set that you've noticed 2 different sets of instant time have repeated and overlapped, that those little decisions like Marty did with his fucking skateboard, it's the same thing like if I would make a decision like somewhere, and I did that in Grand Falls last summer, oh, that was quite a ripple. It changed quite a bit. And it's instantaneous. So what I usually do when I do, it's just like 1 extra coffee, hello, nice day, see ya, no conversation, stuff like that. Minuscule little decisions, because if you make too much of a big ripple, it just fucks up R everywhere, and everything's all fucked up. I've noticed that. As far as different alien technologies, yeah, I found another alien technology coordinate type situation where it's alien technology and it's something that's documented in a couple of countries, just they don't want people to talk about it, and it's deactivated now. It's been deactivated now for about a year or two or a few. So that's not going to kick off anymore. And it starts off as a natural whirlwind, and it ends up becoming something that, when it closes, it prints out a life reconfiguration ring, and it loops around the world when it shuts down, and no one can remember. And the thing is, with the alien technologies, is if you look at the alien device when it's on shutdown, it's called a world scroll, and you can learn anything of your desire just looking at it. It will give you the answer. However, the instant you look at it, it takes all your information that you have and it implements it into that system, and then it is in the configuration on you. And when it shuts down and it closes, it pops out a reconfiguration life ring, like an evolution reconfiguration life ring for everything around the planet. And you're going to be reconfigured. And it's something that I had discussions with a few world leaders in different countries. And it's something that you just can't say, well, where is it? You know what I mean? When it's active, you can see it. And when it closes, you can experience it, but you won't remember it. There's a fail-safe on closing that you just won't remember. I seem to be the only one with the permissions, and some people have some photos of it or some documentation of something, but there's not much understanding of it other than maybe 2 or 3% of it. And I pretty much understand all of it now. And it's no longer active. And it was set up to stop societies from being destructive against themselves. Because there are certain regions around the world that's just like an automatic, chaotic place, something strange, unexplainable, where, the shit goes down all the time. It's an alien contraption device set up to deter that in any way, all the way around, each and every way, in any order. Something like that. So that's deactive. That's not active. It could be reactivated, and that's alien technology. I found a few other things, but it's to have the discussion with others, and to be more adaptive on these the things that we do realize these days, and move forward. I'm not going to get into everything that I understand and know about, but that's the surface of things. I did travel the top shelf of Canada. I trained a little bit here and there. I used to be a federal agent, and on the way home from like different provinces and stuff, I'd stop at various locations and do a little bit of quick training and kind of like a triathlon type workout, or Ironman type workout, short type workout, like an hour or 2 or 3 hours. Just a tough variance of all kinds of things that just to get you desensitized, just in case and whatnot, to different elemental factors and changes of anomalies and whatnot. So I did that, and I went to the top of the territories in Canada quite a few times, but I mean at the exact top, like before the Arctic Circle. I mean, I've been up there twice on the top rim, and I've sat right in the middle of Canada twice. And I noticed that when I was going up there, I developed something called North Globe Syndrome. And it used to make me cry because it was just so, I don't know what it is. It has something to do with coordinates and elevation and where you are in the hemisphere and the way the globe is spinning and at what velocity. I mean, the globe spins like at 12,000 miles an hour or kilometers an hour. When you're at the top, no, it's far less. I've noticed that the further you go up the hemisphere on the globe, right at the top, time, space, reality, and the phase of reality change. Like time, space, and reality is slow. Like if you would actually, let's just say, live there in Antarctica, let's say at the top of the globe where it doesn't spin, you wouldn't age too quickly. Huh? You would find that your life would be uncopable in so many ways that you can't survive there on a super long-term period. It's just too difficult on the human mind. The copability would be unbearable. However, short term, 6 months, a year, yeah, with the realizations. And there are plenty of anomalies up there, and that's no place to vacation. Same thing with the top shelf of Canada, the top of the territories, very dangerous. I did do some training before I actually went, and some realizations, and I built up a couple algorithms and whatnot to actually achieve that safely and return safely. So North Globe Syndrome, yeah, it's something that if you try to speak about it, you cry. Not because it's bad or anything. It's just some unknown factor. It has something to do with the mind and the elevational factors or something like that. But I figured out a way to counter-configure that naturally, to stop that and be able to speak about it without having any issues with that. And I've done that. Like after I did my expedition on that, I had difficulty. It used to bother me. And actually there's really no way except for like medication, stuff like that. So I figured out a natural way to halt that, and I helped a few people, at least temporarily. And I told them flat out, I mean, my counter configuration is just, it might not be 100%. It might just be like 80 or 70 or 60. They were fine with that. And this past year, I completed that, and I can speak about it. It's a full, complete counter configuration. So that North Globe Syndrome, that's not effective. There's no detriment whatsoever. Doesn't bother. So I noticed that when I was on the top shelf up there, the final moments before I'd actually be within the moment, I just took some, like a 45-minute period. And I kind of phased in with the slower momentum of everything, along with the habitat, and I kept self-monitoring. And after about 45-50 minutes, then I was in the same phase of the relative moment with everything natural of the moment. And then it was more easier to tolerate the change, or because I was, you're desensitized and your body systems had fluctuated, and you started to realize, and your culpability and stuff like that, everything is kind of like settled down to the moment. It's like and then you're good. I did see, when I was up there, I was sitting down on a stump. The first time I was like 70%. I sat down and a wolf came up to me. Sure, I was scared, but what am I going to do, run? I'm not going to start shooting my pistol at them, you know what I mean? So I sat there, it sat next to me, it looked me in the eye. And I realized right there at that moment, that when you go up to these specific special destinations, nature's going to take over. And that wolf calculates your soul, determines your survivability rate. And when I went to the top, I sat up in the middle on a stump. I don't know if it's the same wolf, but a wolf sat not far from me again while I was adjusting, and about 10 or 12 others sat in the distance, just above the tree line, and they just sat there with me. It was the most peaceful thing I'd ever experienced in my life. It was just so beautiful. I was sitting there with the wolves. I heard something in the back, and I looked over the shore, the water, because there was like a circular lake. And on the other side of the lake, there were two people from another nation washing clothes out of a basket in the water. And they bowed to me. And I bowed. It was a very peaceful moment. They were quite amazed to see me sitting there. I'm sure they don't get too many visitors in their lifetime up there. But anyway, that's some of the things that about TSRs and whatnot, and a whole lot more. Just in this country, there's really something wrong somewhere.